In this video, I'm going to be talking about a phenomenon being discussed more and more on social media and online blogs and things like that, and it is called thrift gentrification. Thrifting has seen a boom in popularity. More and more people are going to thrift stores. A lot of teenage girls go and buy majority of their wardrobe from the thrift store because it's cheap and it's just trendy now. Like the type of clothes you find at thrift stores aligned with the common trends in teenage girls, and I would say you can say that about Gen Z and millennials. Gentrification can happen when more affluent individuals come in and displace poorer people in that area. So that happens with housing most commonly, and that's when people normally use the word gentrification. But in this scenario, people are talking about more and more wealthy people are coming into thrift stores because it's trendy. And so thrift stores respond by hiking their prices because consumer demand is increased. And then poor people are becoming displaced because now fast fashion is actually a cheaper alternative than going to your local Goodwill in some cases. So the first question is, are thrift stores actually increasing prices? Right now, I only have information through word of mouth, and I think I'm just gonna trust that information because I believe it. I don't think people are making that up. But the question I want to figure out is, are prices increasing just because of normal inflation, or are prices increasing because of this boom in thrifting, and good places like Goodwill, for example, are just responding to this increase in thrifting, and it's, I guess you could see, like, not a natural response to inflation. It's actually because more and more people are going to thrift stores. The second question I want to figure out is, I know that thrift stores do not have any, they have plenty of clothes. Thousands of pounds are being thrown away from Goodwill every year. I mean, it's the amount of clothes in circulation in the United States is absolutely ridiculous. So I know that there's plenty of clothes at the thrift store that's being given to them for free, but I want to figure out, are there necessary items that are being taken? For example, winter coats are a harder item to find and they are more expensive. So Goodwill is a place that many lower income people go to get necessary items like winter coats. In my research, I'm focusing on Goodwill because most people say they have an issue with Goodwill raising their prices, and it's the most reported thrift store through just my preliminary research that has been called out for raising prices. The other reason is, in my area, Goodwill is the primary thrift store. Like, there's not really any Salvation Armies near me, and that is where I thrift. So I think that because Goodwill is one of the most popular thrift stores out there, and it's been called out for increasing prices, I'm going to focus on them. So I want to make this clear that Goodwill states nowhere in their mission that their goal is to make clothes affordable to low-income people through their thrift stores. Their goal is to raise money for their programs, which support like career opportunities and essentially trying to uplift communities through making career opportunities more accessible, specifically to people who might not easily get those jobs, like disabled people or previously incarcerated people, for example. Also, Goodwill isn't a franchise, so there is not oversight on every single Goodwill store besides for the regional board of directors. So I believe there's 162 different regions of Goodwill, like you could call them, and they all have their own regional board of directors. And each store, I believe, sets its own prices, which makes this especially confusing because every store at Goodwill has its own prices, so I can't comment on every Goodwill. So I'm just gonna try and reach out to Goodwills around me and ask them how they set their prices and see if I can find out if they've raised prices because more people shop there. I just spoke to a manager at my local Goodwill and asked her how they set their prices. Basically, she said every Goodwill has like a price book with criteria and guidelines, and producers, that's what they're called, they just tag the items to um, price them out. So the way that they decide the price depends on if it's damaged, if it's new, if it looks outdated, and what stuck out to me was if it's in popular demand, which would mean, is this a trendy item? So that kind of confirms the idea that a Goodwill increases prices when more people buy there. I mean, it's kind of just common sense. It's supply and demand. If an item that's trendy right now is like a sweater vest, that's something you can find at Goodwill, and they probably are more expensive now because more people are buying them because they're in style. And then I also asked her, do all price books look the same across the nation at Goodwills? And the answer is no. They vary store to store actually, and I'm pretty sure it's set by the board of directors who run the Goodwills in each area. I don't think I can talk about thrift gentrification without mentioning Depop. So Depop is an app that's getting really popular. It already is super popular. And basically you can just resell clothes, but what a lot of people have been doing is going to thrift stores and just bulk buying a lot of clothes they think will sell on Depop and then reselling on Depop for obviously a higher price. People are saying this leads to thrift gentrification because these are people who don't need the thrift clothes, they're just reselling for a profit. And I definitely understand why people take issue with it. I think it is annoying that people can just go into the thrift store and just like buy everything that's cool or they think like people will like, and then just reselling it for a higher price. But it's not like these people aren't doing work. They're going to the thrift store, they're sifting through clothes, and they're taking time to find what they know is popular. And then they're going home, taking high quality photos, and then selling it. And obviously, shipping costs money, and Depop takes a portion of the money that they're making. So I think it is like a legitimate way of trying to make money. I also think it's important to realize that the people who are doing this, they aren't just like upper middle class, like super wealthy people who like don't need to. I don't know everyone who's a Depop seller, but I think a lot of these people are young, and either way, whether or not they're going to be selling on Depop, they would have another job. So my question to people who are criticizing Depop sellers is like, would you rather them work at H&M? Is there How many jobs out there are completely like ethical, if that makes sense? Should you be criticizing the Depop sellers, or should you be criticizing fast fashion? And I mean, in some cases you could be criticizing like capitalism in general, because it in most cases capitalism does not support low income people, and it does not support sustainability. So I don't think there's a lot of jobs that people without a college degree can have that doesn't just support a big corporation, or doesn't somehow, in some indirect or direct way, harm lower income people. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully you can like just, when you start thinking about that, it's actually crazy how hard it is to find a job that doesn't just support a corporation, or just like doesn't just make profit for a corporation. And I'm definitely not criticizing people who do work at H&M or Forever 21, one of those stores. The executives at corporations are the actually people who have a choice in how companies are run. Like, not people who work on the floor as a retail, and not people who are reselling clothes from thrift stores.